Hello and welcome to the Icelandic Roots Arctic Fox Seminar. My name is Becky Byerly Adams and I am the Outreach Team Leader for Icelandic Roots. The Arctic fox is Iceland's only native land mammal, and today we will learn about this beautiful, fascinating creature. Our speaker is Ester Rut Unnsteinsdóttir, a noted Icelandic biologist and the country's leading expert on foxes. She works at the National Science Institute of Natural History with a special focus on the ecology of the Icelandic Arctic fox Melrakki. She's traveled every nook and cranny of her country looking to uncover the secret and not so secret behaviors of the fox. Her work is the subject of the book Melrakki, The Surviving Arctic Fox. It's only a beautiful photography book, but a lot of scientific text by Esther. And she will be attending the 7th Arctic Fox Conference that will be held in Churchill, Manitoba at the end of September. Thank you for speaking to us today, Esther.
Thanks for inviting me.
You're welcome.
Okay, shall I share my...
Yes, if you'd like to share your screen, that would be great.
Okay, let's see if we get the right screen. So yes, I'm a wildlife ecologist with a biological background by the University of Iceland. And I work at Náttúrufræðistofnunm, which is actually based on a very old heritage from Hið Íslenska Náttúrufræðifélag, which is like the oldest, one of the oldest, or I think it's the second oldest association which is still working in Iceland. The other one is Hið Íslenska Bókmenntafélag, which is about literature, of course. And this institute is responsible for mapping and monitoring Icelandic nature. So both geology and vegetation and wildlife. And I've been working there since 2013, but I have many hats, as you will see. So I will also talk about my past work and study projects in Westfjords. And all the pictures in my presentation are from Icelandic Arctic foxes. Some of them I took myself, but I'm also very happy to introduce beautiful pictures from Icelandic photographers and foreign colleagues. So this one is from Einar Guðmann. And most of them are also from Hornstrandir Nature Reserve, where I have been doing my studies since 20 years, 25 years, I guess, even longer. The Arctic fox is distributed circumpolar, so it has a Nordic distribution and it's found on all mainlands and most islands of the Arctic. And most of the populations are connected somehow with pack ice or landmass. Iceland is one of the few areas where the species is found where it's not connected with others by ice in the winter or land. There are others like Commander Islands and Pribilof Islands at the other side of the pole, and both in all these islands the population of the Arctic fox has been isolated for so long that it has been regarded as a subspecies, but in Iceland it hasn't. It's still the same species that is found everywhere else. This is from the graph, or the picture is from a paper that was published in 2007, where you can see the black dots is where samples were taken for genetical studies, and the other one is from 2005, where both of them were showing that Iceland was quite distinguished from the others and showing in isolation for 1,000 years or longer. This little fox is quite well adapted to living in the Arctic, and it's got so good adaptations to the Arctic cold compared, for example, to the red fox, which is the most common fox in the world, that you can see it kind of visually. It has small and condensed body, and everything is reduced. The ears are small and round, and in the winter they are completely covered by the fur. The limbs and the tail and the neck is shorter, and it has furry pads. Most of them are of white color, which is quite good camouflage in the snow, and it also makes more out of the sunlight. The fur is so well insulating that even in -40 degrees Celsius, they don't increase metabolic rate considerably, and they never shiver. And what I often envy them of when I'm watching them in the winter, just by standing for half an hour or just 1 hour in my winter clothes and winter boots, I still can get moisty under my feet, and if I sit in the snow, it gets wet on the butt quite easily. But this fox that I'm watching for hours laying on the snow, when it stands up, it just shakes and dry, and there's not even moisture under them. So they don't lose any heat from the body because of the insulating fur. They also accumulate a little bit of fat in the autumn, but it's not that much that it can be regarded as like blubber or what the polar bears accumulate. And that helps also with the insulation, and it's used as an energy store. And they have this very interesting countercurrent system in the blood circulation of the legs, which is actually also found in other Arctic animals like the Arctic hare, Arctic reindeers in Svalbard, for example. And it's just a mixture of the warm blood from the heart and the cold blood from the outer limbs, which is like folded together. So the warm blood keeps the cold blood from getting too cold, sort of. And that's a very clever system. The Arctic fox has been regarded as a flagship species to study effects from warming climate and also from both in temperature and in the sea, and anthropogenic changes on Nordic wildlife. They have been facing threats in most of their distributional areas. The most threat has been due to competition with red foxes, which has been doing well when it got warmer in the Nordic areas, and they have expanded towards north and also increased in numbers, and they take over Arctic fox territories and dens. They kill their cubs, and they even kill adults, as can be seen on this picture. Most of the Arctic foxes are so-called lemming foxes. They are specialized on lemmings and voles, and those rodents, they fluctuate in numbers. So in peak years, there's a high breeding, and in low lemming years, there's hardly any breeding and a lot of dispersal on the ice. These cycles have changed. The peaks are not as high, and the interval between the peaks is too long for foxes to breed. So they have been causing troubles. The tree line has expanded towards north, and this is habitat that the Arctic fox cannot live in, dense conifer woods, but the red fox is fine with it. And then again, the sea ice is thinning, and it actually limits kind of the connection between populations. So it also affects foraging opportunities in the wintertime during low lemming years. The Arctic fox is known to travel onto the ice, even follow polar bears and eat carcasses from their leftovers, even polar bear shit, and then come back to the land for breeding. So the reduced sea ice is affecting the global population. In Iceland, we don't have anything of these threats. We don't have any lemmings or wolves or any cyclic rodents. We have the wood mouse that was introduced by the Vikings. Before that, there were no rodents in Iceland, and these mice are not showing any regular fluctuations, only seasonal. So there's a lot of them in the autumn and very small population in the spring. We don't have any red foxes, and the Vikings were really clever. It was written in the first law in Iceland on the 12th century. It's not allowed to import red foxes and brown bears. Actually, there's also an act there. If you have a polar bear, there's rules, you have to follow. So that must have been, not common maybe, but and Melrakki was mentioned in this first law, and there was an act stipulation on killing them. It's been in the law since the beginning to kill foxes. We have also seen geographical differences reflected in terms of food. So we claim that we have two ecotypes. Globally, we talk about tundra foxes, which are often named lemming foxes, and coastal foxes. We have coastal foxes in Iceland that mainly feed on marine diet and live close to the coast. And then we have what we call inland foxes, and they are less likely to visit the sea level or the beaches and feed mainly on like geese and ptarmigan and highland food. And they are more likely to be of the white color morph. I will introduce that in the next slide. But the coastal foxes are more likely to be of the blue morph. And you can see actually on this picture that was taken in a beach in Westfjords in March during the mating season, how well camouflaged the dark fox is in the ice-free beaches, and the white one is just like a reflection mark. So in Westfjords, we have the longest coastline in per area in the country. So most of the foxes live there. There's higher density in the coastal areas. It's probably because there's food all year round. Most of our birds are migrating and leave in the autumn, but in the beach there's always something to eat. And because of how how the fox is relying on what comes from the sea for food, we can see drastic effects on events in the sea, like when the sand yield disappears and all the seabirds are declining, it's affecting the fox population, and so on. Here's these two main color morphs. So the Arctic foxes come in the white color that everyone knows, and well, many people think that all of them change from white in the winter to blue in the summer, but this is both taken in the winter, and you can see that the blue fox is just still dark brown in the winter, and these are both in Westfjords. And here is the white fox in the summer coat, which is definitely not white. And they have this bicolored pattern, which is dark in the back and on the dorsal parts, and white is or blonde in the ventral parts. And they have also this pattern in the face, which makes them look like a little teddy bear. And this could be the same fox, although I know it's not, but it's both in Iceland. The blue morph can actually look pretty blonde. And this photo I took in June, where a blue morph fox was molting or losing the winter fur. And you can see it almost looks as it was white and is turning blue. But that means it happens actually in the end of the winter, like in March, when the sun starts shining again. The fur can bleach like this. So it gets really, really blonde. So it's not easy to see if it was a blue fox or white fox in late winter. But you can definitely see the summer fur is not white or bicolored. We called the first settler Frumbyggi. This is the one who started or established settlement in Iceland. So we can call the Arctic fox the first settler because it's been in the country since the end of Ice Age. When the ice cap retreated towards north, they got stuck on the island, and they were there when the first human settlers arrived in the 9th century. And they knew this little fox as Melrakki, and it's possible or more likely than not that these foxes were trapped for the fur, because fur industry, if you can call it that, was existing before the settlement in Iceland. It's the only nature terrestrial mammal and a top predator in Iceland. And it has been, as I said, killed legally since the settlement in Iceland. So in the first written law, farmers actually were, and humans were battling and competing for the same resources, which was birds mainly, and then livestock, and then space. So they didn't like this little fox to have the same interest, like in newborn lambs, which were not housed at that time. They were staying outside. It's also evidence that female sheep were milked because people didn't always have cows. So the little lambs were really vulnerable, and the foxes saw them as a new kind of prey. And so there was, in the first written law, if you had 6 or more sheep on winter feeding of vetrarfóðrum, you have to kill 1 adult fox or 2 cubs every year. If you don't, you will pay a tax, and part of the tax is going to be used for paying someone else to do it. And to prove that you killed this fox, you brought the skull to Alþingi, and someone took the skull and crushed it, and you could get paid up to 7 fishes. So it was a currency. So this was called the fox tax, and this fox tax was going on for hundreds of years until it had a little bit of changes. But now it's the municipalities who actually pay for it, and since the fur is not used, the tail is taken off as a proof. So this is very interesting and pretty Icelandic. We also have found out, because we are in a very good collaboration with other countries, like we are going to meet in Churchill. So we know pretty much what's going on in other countries, and in Scandinavia, the Arctic fox has been protected really heavily since 1930s, and they have very few left. So Iceland, with the exception of Svalbard, which is connected to both Russia and Canada with ice, we have 90 to 99% of the Nordic population of this species. So we are pretty much responsible for sustaining viable population. And then it's really strange how much effort we use to kill them. Anyways, it's because of the change in what is called global warming, the heating of both sea and air temperature. It's really happening in a higher speed in Iceland than globally, and especially also just in the Nordic areas. And since the population is confined to a limited geographic area, it's an isolated population with a very kind of simple ecosystem. And we have so much information of the hunting and a lot of harvest data and many samples from the harvest. It is an ideal population or a study species to investigate all kind of ecological mysteries and possible implications of habitat fragmentation due to land use strategies. Is also very interesting because Iceland is changing a lot. We are building, we have changed land use a lot, especially in the north or southwest because of tourism, road systems, infrastructure. We have expanded our villages, especially and the capital area, into the nature. We have been building big electricity lines. There are some ideas of windmills. We have been damming rivers. So there's a lot of changes in infrastructure that it's interesting to see how it's affecting the Arctic fox and also its prey, like the birds. And that this is kind of an ideal situation for ecologists to study this system. We have done all kind of studies that I will introduce later, but we have been studying the diet of the Arctic foxes. And since we have access to samples, especially bones, which have been collected for a long time, we can look at the diet in the growth period of the fox, which is the first 7 months when the bone is formed. We can use that to extract steady isotopes of carbon and nitrogen, and the ratio between these two chemicals can show us the origin of the diet. So high levels suggest marine diets. That's kind of the blue color on the graph, and low values are found in inland or away from the sea diet, kind of proteins and carbonates. So you can see that ptarmigan is the lowest in the graph, and highest is the seabirds and the eiders. And you can see the blue morph and the white morph, just to show that most of the foxes that we have estimated have are following this pattern. So the most of these coastal foxes have higher values, and most of the inland foxes had lower values. So we have kind of a little bit of proof that there is different diet following where the foxes are killed who had these bones, sort of. Here's a fox in the beach in Hornvík in Hotstrandi Nature Reserve with a kittiwake in its mouth. And it's a typical coastal fox with a coastal diet. When we are doing the population estimate and monitoring the species, we have to know a little bit about their life habits. And this is a non-social species. It's called solitary species. They are not social like wolves. They don't live in packs. They usually travel alone. But the social system is a pair and their family in the summer. So when they have established a relationship, they stay together when both live, for as long as both live. and that's similar to like ducks or swans. So they mate in March. They get the genitals actually are shut down in non-breeding season, but they start to grow and develop in February and are ready to mate in March. And the window when the females are fertile is quite short. It's about 1 week. So they have to be lucky or not, and then just wait 1 year if it doesn't work. And the pair is establishing their and strengthening their bonds, like with, we call it the mating dance. The female actually lets the male chase her for days, maybe to show his strength, and then they play fight a little bit. It looks aggressive, but it's kind of beautiful. And here is a pair that was actually had been together earlier, so they were just strengthening their bond on this picture, and it's quite impressive to see this. The gestation period is about 2 months, so most cubs are born in May, and this is also simplifying our models to know that we kind of have this general birthday, 1st to 15th of May or something. In Iceland, we have very, very fixed litter size. We have been looking at literature back 100 years because of all the fox hunting. We have all kind of information of how many cubs are dens. And we have about 4.5 cubs on dens when they're 5 to 6 weeks of age. And when we dissect carcasses, we count placental scars, which can be expressing how many fetuses this female was carrying, and that's about 5.4. And there are thousands of individuals behind these numbers, and it's really fixed and does not fluctuate at all. These cubs are born in May. The female stays with them for about 3 weeks. After 4 weeks, they start to eat solid food, and they are having also mother's milk until 7 weeks. Both parents bring food, and they grow so fast, so both of them have to go out foraging every day and bring a lot of food back to the den until they have reached almost adult size in the end of August. So it's really busy family life. Sometimes there is a 1-year-old daughter allowed to be around, supposed to be helping, and sometimes they are and sometimes they're not. But this is known also in other countries, and it's kind of also like an index on if there's enough food in the territory. Maybe they can be on guard, but it depends on how. If they're lazy, they just get up with it. It's okay. But they're kicked out usually in the end of July. Everyone is on their own from September, and the territories loosen up. And then it's a really hard time for the cubs to find food and survive kind of the first winter. And it's not easy in the early autumn because they still haven't got full adult teeth. They are losing their teeth, so they're kind of lost, if you ask me. But they find berries and stuff. You know, it's amazing how much they can do. But there's a lot of drop-offs in the first winter. Mortality is quite high. And in March next year, when the cubs are 10 months of age, they have reached maturity. So they have the same chance as others to find a lifetime companion. But they can hardly find the territory on their own because they kind of have to fight for it, and it's limited how much carrying capacity will allow that. I also have to tell you about why do I know things about the Arctic fox. So here is my mentor, Professor Paul Hestensson, who told me everything and taught me everything I know about the Arctic fox, and was my teacher at the university and a mentor. And he sadly passed away in 2011. But he monitored the Arctic fox population in Iceland since 1979, when he was still doing his studies in Oxford. He went to both Oxford and Cambridge, but I think he did his PhD in Oxford, and his field studies were in Westfjords of Iceland, where he monitored the behavior and dispersal and the diet, and created the first population model of the Arctic fox with collaboration with fox hunters, where he got the lower jaw from the carcasses of the foxes they killed to age them and do a age cohort model, which is the same as is done in fisheries. And he then got later the whole body, so he could dissect like we do now. But we still use the same model to estimate the population. And when Paul, we call him Palli, started his studies in 1980, the population was in the critical low numbers. But he could use also hunting data, and according to that, it was collected since 1957 or 8. There was a peak in the 1950s, an unknown peak, and decline until 1980 for all kind of reasons, but then increased since then, and which was slow in the beginning and then faster after 1995. And a peak in 2007 and some fluctuations since then. And we believe the population is still around maybe 10,000, 9 to 10,000. This is an autumn estimate, meaning that the cubs that were born in the summer are included in these numbers. And when we have hunting numbers from the municipalities and the authorities, they always talk about the total killed, which is quite high, and usually 2/3 or even 40% are cubs. So it's still a lot. I mentioned also here its number of litters. This is what we are using in synchronized circumpolar monitoring methods, which is done in areas where you don't kill foxes, and I use in conservation in protected areas where the foxes are not killed. It's the number of litters. And in this graph, we have number of litters actually growing from 200 in 1980 up to 1,600 in 2007. So it's quite high increase in population growth. So in these areas where Arctic foxes are protected, that's the red dots in on the map, and you can see Westman Islands. We don't have any foxes there, and Eldey and a few islands. So it's not nothing that is important for the foxes, but it's Þjórsárver in the middle of the country, which is the goose colony, and then Hotstrandir Nature Reserve and Snæfellsnes National Park, for example. And Hotstrandir and Snæfellsnes are the only areas where we have monitored the Arctic foxes with counting number of litters and litter size. But these areas were listed as sanctuaries for the Arctic fox with the wildlife law that was set in 1994 and stipulating protection of Arctic foxes, but they were still continued to be killed due to exemption to prevent livestock from being killed by foxes. This damage has never been estimated, and the environmental agency that takes care of the hunting management has actually said in the past 10 years or so that the assumption for the exception from protection have been failed because no damage has been kind of reported. So it's mainly just based on old tradition, I would say, or a bad habit. But hunting has been believed to limit population growth. And when foxes were protected, especially in Hornstrandir Nature Reserve with this high density area, people actually believed that it would increase the population and they would move out in herds from there to kill everything that would be alive, birds and sheep and little babies and old ladies and I don't know, whatever. But so there's a lot of money in this. It's been exceeding 3.5 billion Icelandic kroners, the cost of killing foxes. And the numbers killed are more than, I would say, 200,000 since the protection of the species. And that's a lot of dead foxes that, you know, people in other countries are trying to protect because of, you know, we are losing species in biodiversity and everything. But we have been looking at litters and litter size in Hornstrandir Nature Reserve and Snæfellsnes National Park that was established in 2001, and hunting ban came with the protection in that area. So what I am monitoring every summer is part of Hornstrandir Nature Reserve. For those who don't know where it is, it's the northwest tip of Westchurch. It's about 680 square kilometers peninsula. You can hike over there from Strandir, but it takes 4 or 5 days to do that, and it's quite hard. But so there's boat tours now. It's regular boat tours to that area. It's quite popular. It's got beautiful bird cliffs, magnificent landscape, very nice hiking routes. And then the old villages are actually starting to come back. The place was totally abandoned in the 1940s. There had been settlement there since 1,000 years. So everyone moved away. And it's quite an interesting area to study recovery of ecosystem or restoring ecosystem. Where no grazing has occurred for decades and the wildlife has just been on their own and the vegetation. But in 2 of these areas, or 3 maybe, you can find quite dense summer houses, like in Aðalvík, in both north and south part, in Fljótavík and in Hesteyri, you can see there. But there's also a little dot called Kvíar, that's just 1 house. And that has been restored for tourism. So, and all these little lines, the blue lines, are now showing where the boats are taking land to bring tourists in the area. But when I started there in 1998, we didn't have any regular boats. There was 1 ferry that came 4 times a summer. And yeah, now you have all these boats many times a week and a lot of people. And it's really, really popular. So if you haven't been there, you have to go there once in your life, I think. If you look at hunting data or harvest data from Hornstrandir since before protection, we can see that the pattern is the same. To the left, you have the country in general, and to the right, you have Hornstrandir. And of course, the noise is really high because it's a smaller area with lower numbers. But the trend is pretty much the same. It's down in the declining period, it's up in the increasing period. But actually in the increasing period, you have the same number in the first and the last period of 20 years. My observations and my mentors before me, that's the red dot, show that litter size has not increased in Hotstrandir since the protection. This is just from 1999, but it's pretty much the same, and it's a decline after 2012. But if you remember what I said earlier, litters increased from 200 to 1600 where foxes are hunted. So we can see that the protection has not increased the population in this area. And that's quite interesting. Tourism has not always been positive, but I'm a little bit responsible for this tourism, fox tourism thing. I actually got interested in educating and informing about this species. So I will tell you a little bit later that in 2006 we started creating the idea about opening a visitor center about the species to inform and educate. And the idea of the Arctic Fox Center in Westfjords started to kind of bubble in our heads. So me and Páll Eysteinsson, my mentor, we kind of created that idea together. And in 2010 it was opened. Already I started guiding and promoting this species in wildlife tourism. And we did all kind of things to try to get people to believe that this would be profitable and it would be worth traveling to this area to see the Arctic fox. And now I would say it has expanded so much that it's becoming problematic for the species. So this year we published this paper in Wildlife Biology about den attendance by Arctic foxes in 10 years of increasing tourism. And it's based on a study that I did in my first summer there in 1998, where me and my schoolmate did a behavioral study on Arctic foxes at fox dens, where we looked at how many times the parents would visit the den, female versus male, and did they play with the cubs? Did the cubs play? Was there a dominance hierarchy between the cubs? How much food did they get? And all kind of things. And in 98, there was hardly any people coming to the area, and definitely no one in June when the females were still lactating and everyone was so vulnerable and stuck to the den. In 2008, I was still visiting that area. I've been going there every summer since 98. We also didn't have any tourists in June, but we started this pilot study at the same time that we started creating the tourism. And since then, we have monitored people and foxes at fox dens in Cliff Hodberg. And this paper is based on the studies from 2010 to 2019, when we had to cut that. Well, we continued to study it, but COVID came and there were no tourists. So it was interesting to just look at that 10 years period. And in that time, even only in this last week of June, we could actually measure 10-fold increase in tourism, in tourists that came to the dens. What we also saw that it was not only the number of tourists, it was the time that people stayed at fox dens, because they were not interested in the beginning, but the time that they were staying there was increasing. And that was disturbing the foxes a lot. So we could see that parents would not visit the den as often as before. So there was less food coming for the cubs. What we also saw that some parents, especially females, were just staying with the tourist and acting tame or playing cool, but they did not defend their territory or bring any food. So we have seen also intruders coming, more foreign foxes coming into the den area, and even killing cubs. So there is a little bit of negative effects, but what we did at the same time, we always worked with rangers and tour operators. So we did create guidelines and suggesting also winter photographing. So this has actually worked quite well. So I think it's doing okay. The foxes are getting break overnight, and people are staying. They have a limited time that they can stay and not too close. So it has also been very useful and interesting to work in collaboration with those who are creating the tourism, and it's quite big now. So winter tours, for example, are sold out for 3 years, and these pictures are winning awards everywhere, and it's really great. The newest thing I'm going to tell you about is a new project that was established 2 years ago, and it's funded by RANIS, the Icelandic Research Fund, and we have collaborators from the University of Iceland, a University of New Brunswick in Canada, and Scotland, and then it's a few students, especially one PhD student who has done most of the thing, and it's sponsored by all kind of agents. But we are still trying to finance it mostly. But here's the team. So it's me and Snæbjörn Pálsson, a professor at the University of Iceland, Nicholas Lecomte in Canada, and Bruce Adam in Scotland, and Anna Bára, the PhD student. Another one, Hafrún, PhD student and a master student who has graduated, Ninna, and a few interns. And they've been really, really creative, and it's been so much that we can do as a team in comparison to being alone and kind of try to do everything. But we have many aims, mainly to improve the population estimate, which we think is a little bit weak because it doesn't show in infrastructure or if the population is the same everywhere in the country, because we have seen these two ecotypes. So we are doing modern statistical techniques, which Bruce McAdam in Scotland is mainly leading. We are also looking into geographical differences in terms of diet, morphology. It's the shape of the jaws that we think differs because of different diet. And then the genetics, both the whole genome to look at the differences in the regions, but also try to use SCAT with eDNA techniques, which is more simple and less costly and not invasive. So we don't have to kill foxes to get the material, but we can use SCAT. And this is the same that is used in other countries where the species is rare. We also want to see the status and the role of the species in the Icelandic ecosystem and look at dispersal between the regions. So are they truly coastal, or are they just happen to be located in coastal areas where they were killed? So we want to put satellite collars on as many foxes as we can to see where they are going and what they're up to. Are they really harming livestock, or are they just scavenging? What's the predation rate on sensitive bird areas and so on? So it's really, really important for us to get the telemetry going. The model is going to be based on regions, which are actually divided by the hunting management unit and not us, because we use the hunting statistics so much, and they divide the country in 9 parts. So we are going to try to do population estimates by each of these regions. And we're also going to divide it by what is happening in their life. So we believe that, for example, the breeding individuals have different mortality rate than the non-breeding, and then the seasons have different mortality rate for each age group and so on. So we're trying to kind of get a clearer insight into the population to do a proper model. And we also think it's important to know the population, which would be kind of called effective or active population in the onset of breeding, but not in the autumn when we know that most of them are going to die anyway in the winter. So we have ideas of doing a population model for different regions and also different seasons. So spring and autumn population, which I think would be more telling you more about the population than what we have today. Morphology is based on jaw shape, and this is a picture of a jaw that when we dissect the foxes, we have to get the head off and clean the jaw because we are taking out the canine tooth. You can see the hole here. Maybe you see the pointer, and it's because we take out the canine. Half of it is inside the bone, and we use it to microslide it and to see sort of year lines like in a tree, so we can see how old the fox was. And by that we do the age tables and population estimate. But there are some literature showing that this shape of this jaw can be changing because of different diet. And this is known in other species, and we're going to do it also here. So we have these standard measurements, and then we have this new technology with AI and everything that is looking into the whole shape of each jaw. And our PhD student, Anna Bára, has been measuring this, and she introduced her first results in Hrafnaþing, which is the ravens meeting that we always have every month in the institute. It's online presentation and all available on YouTube, just like yours. And here's the link to that. She's also doing the whole genome analysis in 3 distinct areas: the Westfjords, the East, and in the Southwest. And from that, she can actually estimate effective population size 100 years ago, 500 years ago, and 1,000 years ago, which is really interesting. So to look at bottlenecks and if there was some recent introduction from other areas. And we have another limited earlier study that showed some limited connection between regions, especially from Westfjords to other parts in Iceland. And she looked at 60 individuals, 10 males and 10 females in each of these 3 regions. And her first results actually show that this first one with a map shows where the foxes were killed and where they came from, we think. And the colors are kind of showing where they come from. And on the graph, this is one method of showing how they are different from each other. So the green one is really different from the red and the blue. And that's the Westfjord foxes. And the red and the blue are more similar on the vertical scale. No, on the horizontal scale, but more different in the vertical scale. So it's different factors that are divided by. But you can see that there is one dot from Westfjords that looks different, and it's closer to the others. Actually, that dot was from a fox that was in other area in Westfjords. So it actually kind of suggests that it could be a scale where foxes could be more related to each other, or so we haven't got the information from other areas, but we are using the scat analysis maybe to close these gaps, because it's really, really expensive to do a whole genome analysis. So the last part is trying to figure out where they go, as I mentioned, and we aim to fit 20 foxes in each of these regions, 10 females and 10 males, and that should be young individuals in the autumn to see where they go when they leave home. And it's going to be recording also behavior, if they're resting, hunting, traveling, and then if they die. So they would actually give the status within the food web, but they would also give us information to improve the other parts of the project, both the genomics and the population model. What we know is that there's different for the same species, and this is from the paper that I mentioned in the beginning, from all these areas of the distributional range. There's a high gene flow or more related foxes in the lemming areas, Siberia, East Greenland, Churchill, and the Canadian archipelago, and then Scandinavia and Alaska. They're all more related than the coastal foxes in Northwest Greenland and West Greenland and Iceland, which is actually least related. In Iceland, we have this old study from 2009, where we show so limited gene flow from Westfjord to the other parts of the country, and also a little bit of barriers between the eastern part and the other places. So if we would have satellite colors on the foxes, we might actually improve these ideas. We are lucky in the northern part. There's quite dense satellite cover. So the precision of the locations are very good. The techniques have been improving also. We have very small and light colors that can be fitted on these species. This is from, I think, Canada. Oh, Violet Island in Canada. And here's also a track from a fox that was fit with a satellite color in Svalbard in March. And it's a female at the onset of the breeding season. Note bene, it's a coastal fox, which is not supposed to go anywhere. And she traveled on the ice 3,500 kilometers, even more, in 76 days. What happened in the Canadian island, in Ellesmere Island, is that the batteries went off, so no one knew what happened later. But this is a record of traveling fox, so you can see what they are capable of. And this is many times Iceland, in general. They could go many, many circles around Iceland. Here's another from another paper, 2019, young foxes traveling in the first month of their life, of their independence life. The average distances was about 500 kilometers, and some of them went on ice and some of them were on land. And here you can see that they were actually passing all kind of terrain, very different landscape. Here is another one who did 70 kilometers per day, but not covering so much area. So it's within the territory. So distance from A to B is not that long, but the whole travel is, I don't know if you're counting footsteps on your map, like you have a watch or something. Sometimes you go 12,000 steps, but you are still in the same area pretty much. So it's not always a long extended distances. All this we would know if we had the colors. So we have been preparing for this. We are training ourselves to work with the traps and snares and everything. We have set out baits with the hunters, visited here by ravens, also a little bit by foxes. Maybe you can see this little video. There were 2 foxes coming close to the trap, but in Iceland, because they have been killed so heavily, they don't want to go inside. So we have to tell them how and reward them with a lot of food. So this is still an ongoing process. There was one trapped. So yeah, what we are kind of stuck in here is that we got collars that were too big for the foxes, and we are trying to finance collars that fit them. And yeah, we're kind of collecting money to to be able to continue this part. But before I finish, I will tell you also about when we opened the Arctic Fox Center, which is like my little baby. And it was opened in 2010. And I really love these pictures. I get a little bit nostalgic because this is where Páll Þorsteinsson, my mentor, who passed away actually 1 year later, came and opened the center and honored us by being the protector of the Arctic Fox Center. We also contacted David Attenborough at that time. He could not come. He was busy doing Antarctica filming, but we have a letter in the Fox Center from him wishing us good luck. And of course, we were all in national costumes because we actually wanted to make the Arctic fox the national animal of Iceland. And this house is also one of the oldest houses in Westfjords. It was restored for this. It was totally damaged when we started. And that would be like, I think, a whole presentation to tell the story about how we rebuilt that house for that purpose. But it's worth just to look at this beautiful, beautiful house. And we had people coming also for that. And it has a very big history. But the aim of the center was to tell people about this species, tell them about Melrakki, the Arctic fox, the historical battle between people and foxes, which was actually based on both love and hate. All the poems that people have been writing about the Arctic fox, it lasts so far back. There's 2 famous poems. One is Hrafnahrekkur, and the other one is, I can't remember the name of the poem, but they come from the Middle Ages, and they are maybe the role model of the book that Roald Dahl wrote about the fantastic Mr. Fox. So people have been doing the Arctic foxes, both good and bad, throughout the centuries. Sorry about this, I'm getting a lot of messages. But this Fox Center is worth visiting, I would say, if you have time. And then finally, the little book, which is Melrakki, the surviving Arctic fox, which I hope you can find in bookstores in Canada soon. But it's a beautiful book, I would say. There are so many books that have been made by these photographers, especially because they have mainly done beautiful photo books, but they all call them Melrakki. So they look pretty much the same, but this is the only one I would say that has informative text, which tells you a little bit about the Arctic fox. And it's got these beautiful pictures, but it's also got like a comic, what do you say, paper or information from Rán Fleering. It is, she's a beautiful, beautiful person who's so talented and clever, and she does this artwork of comedy that tells the complicated story of how the fox and the humans kind of cannot live together. And as she did, when she did this food pyramid, as she says so cleverly, there's only space for one on top of the food pyramid. So that's why we don't like the foxes. But it's a beautiful book, and I'm so proud of it. And I think it's also funny, and it tells also kind of the story of the photographer who came as a volunteer to monitor the Arctic foxes and ended up selling photo tours and writing this book and being like a big fan of Iceland and buying houses there and doing whatever. But and he took this beautiful picture of the little fox cub. And I want to thank him and everyone else and you guys, yeah, for just being interested in the Arctic fox and wanting to learn about them. So thank you.
Thank you, Esther, for this fascinating and thorough presentation on the Arctic fox. I'd love to visit the center sometime. So thank you.